everybody. Welcome to the Coffee, Yarn, and Dinosaurs podcast. My name is Ruth Brash. I am a knitting and crochet designer as well as an independent yarn dyer. And what that means is that I do not design or dye for any particular company. I am my own boss. I run my own brands. So I design under the name Everyday Yarnworks, and I dye my yarn under the name Fearless Feet Fiber Co. So you can find me on social media under both of those names. I will put all of my links in the box below so that way you don't have to worry about getting them off the screen right in front here. I am on Instagram the most. I am on Ravelry a whole lot also. And you can also occasionally find me on Facebook, or you can email me if you want to get in contact. So welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. It has been a couple of months since I put out a podcast. I usually try to do once a month, but life over Christmas time gets really busy, Christmas and New Year's, and it just gets busy, right? So it's been, I want to say maybe since mid-November since I put out a podcast. Oh, and today is Monday, January 1st. No, 21st. What am I saying? January 21st, 2019. I am coming to you from central Pennsylvania, where I live with my husband, my 3 children, and all of my yarn. If you are new, thank you so much for taking the time to check out the podcast. And if you are returning, thank you so much for bearing with me and having patience in the 2 months since it has been since I put out a podcast. Before we begin, I just want to start out with a little bit of administrative business, which is that we are doing the Whip Your Whips 2019 knit along on Instagram, and I am also, by the time this video is up, I will have opened a thread for it on Ravelry. There is a brand new Coffee, Yarn, and Dinosaurs podcast group on Ravelry where I will be hosting this knit along, and the goal is to reduce the number of your whips and finish your whips. So whips that were started before 2019. Any whips started prior to 2019 are eligible. You can finish them or frog them. Those are, what is going to be eligible. I'm going to have a finish or frog thread. Actually, I think I'm going to do 2 separate ones. I'll do one for finished objects and one for frogged objects. And in each of those threads, I would like to see before and after photos. So that way you can show where your project was and where it is now. Whether you finished it or whether you frogged it, you can show us progress. If you are on Instagram, you can use the hashtag WhipYourWhips2019 so we can all see what you're doing and join in. I just want to clarify, there have been a couple of people who have frogged yarn and then started new projects, and this is not the type of cal for that. This is the type of event to finish old projects, not to start new ones. So if you are somebody who has somehow, you are my hero, 1 or 2 whips and that's it, awesome. Seriously, good for you. This may not be the event where you have a lot of projects to put in, but at least you will have 1 or 2. And there will be prizes. I am planning for this event to run all year long as I am trying to drastically reduce my whip count for the entire year. So every quarter, that will be at the end of every 3 months. So the end of March, June, September, and December, I will be drawing a name from the FO thread and from the frog thread. And the prize will be that you can pick a full skein of yarn from my Ravelry store. Not Ravelry store. My Etsy shop. That you can pick a skein of yarn from my Etsy shop. With the condition that you cannot win twice in 1 quarter. So you will not be able to win both the finish and the frog. That will be 2 separate people. So that is your incentive to go check out the Ravelry group, because that's where we'll be drawing prizes from. With that said, I think that's it. I think that's all that I needed to tell you. I'm going to jump right into what I've been working on. First of all, you can see I am wearing a knitted sweater, and that is because I knit a sweater and I finished one. Ta-da! I'm going to do something I don't usually do, and I'm going to stand up and sort of show it off to you full body. This is the Big Catch Fisherman sweater by Chantal from Knititude, and this was a test knit for her. It is, excuse my chair scraping. This is a bulky weight sweater. As you can see, I'm gonna have to do that weird thing where you get up on the chair. You can see I'm just wearing this with leggings right now. Ta-da. And it is, I'm gonna move my camera back just a tad. You still can't quite see it. This is a full-length women's sweater. It is intended to be a little bit longer than it fits on me, but I have the unique shaping of having my bust measurement and my waist measurement being exactly the same. So anytime you have that, having the extra width in the waist is going to hitch up the hem of the garment a little bit. So you can see on me, the back is longer than the front, and it sort of rides up a little bit in the front when I wear it. Overall, I am pretty happy with this sweater. It was a fairly fast knit for being fisherman's rib, and you can see overall it fits me, it fits pretty well, with the exception that I would have liked to add a little bit more length in the body. But since it was a test knit, I did not. I was knitting as instructed to the required length in the pattern. So, pros and cons of knitting a sweater when you are not shaped like a model. And this sweater in general. I don't know if you've noticed, but this is a very wide shoulder sweater. The neckline is very wide. I am wearing it a little bit differently than Chantal does in the pattern photo, purely because I do not want the boobs out all over the place. That's just me. That's not how I dress. This, in the sample photos, the neckline is a little closer in, a little bit, and it is also a little bit more plunging, which that's fine if you want to wear it that way. I have 3 small children, and I have no desire for my neckline to get yanked out, and I just flash the whole world every time I wear the sweater. It's just not what I want to do. The other option would be for me to wear a tank top underneath of this, which would work. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that this is sort of sagging off my shoulders a little bit. If I'm doing stuff during the day, you get one of those. Super classy. And I think that possibly that may just be a gauge issue with me. This is a single crochet border along the neckline, which is in the pattern, and I may just crochet looser than Chantal does. I have considered going back and either frogging this and redoing it with a smaller hook size, or adding a second row of single crochet along the neckline with a smaller hook. I still may do that. I do not wear this sweater often enough that it's right at the top of my to-do list, because this is a bulky weight sweater, and today it is very cold here. Very, very, very cold for Pennsylvania. I'm sure there's some of you in much colder places who will laugh at me, but here it is about 6 degrees Fahrenheit right now, and the wind chill outside is -22. And I live in an old stone house, and we have discovered, we've only been here for about 4 months, we've discovered that the heating does not work as well as one might have hoped. So it's about 60, maybe a little lower degrees inside where I'm sitting right now. And I am comfortable in this sweater, if that tells you anything. When I wear it on a day that is not this cold, I cannot wear it for very long. It is a very warm sweater, but that is typical of any bulky weight sweater. If you knit a sweater with very thick yarn, plus this is fisherman's rib, right? So this is, it's not brioche, and I can talk about that in a minute, but it's a very, almost a double thick fabric. The sleeves are very long, and they are loose. You can see they're not a fitted sleeve like this. It's just very loose. They're almost knit completely straight from the top down, just a little bit of shaping. So That is, I wasn't really sure how I would like it, but it is very comfortable. They don't get in the way as much as I suspected that they would. And I think that's because of the bind off cinching them in at the end. I don't think I said, I used Knit Picks Brava Bulky in the, got extra sitting right here, Dublin colorway. And I used just shy of 1,200 yards of it. So it's a decent amount of yarn for a sweater, but because it's Knit Picks Brava, it was maybe a $20 sweater, which is extremely affordable for a hand knit sweater. I do want to add though, that blocking was very, very necessary for this sweater. As I was knitting it, instead of growing lengthwise, the Fisherman's rib sort of squished the fabric together and compacted it, so it looked like a very wide sweater instead of a sort of normal vertical rectangle. It looked like just a very wide, short rectangle. So blocking is very necessary for this pattern. Before I blocked it, the hem was coming about to the middle of my stomach, which for someone shaped like me is just not an attractive look, styled the way I style my clothing. But once I blocked it out, it became much more wearable. I also think that if I did this sweater again, I would work it in a wool or a heavier natural fiber, because the lightweightness of this acrylic is not pulling the hemline down as much as I would like. So the way it fits right now, it has actually sort of shrunk back up a little bit, and I need to reblock it again to get it to fit the way that I would like. So there's that. Secondly, what else has been finished since the last podcast? There have been a number of these hats that I've made, a couple of them designed by Faye Kennington, who is Yuki Knits on just about everywhere on social media. She put out a ebook of super bulky weight hats. So let's see, there's this one. This gray is a larger version of that same hat. And then there is a third hat that I've made here. These are all knit from Patton's wool roving, something like that. I will edit in notes right here to tell you exactly what it is. And I made this one in the child size, and it fits my 3-year-old. This is the adult medium, and it fits both my husband and my 5-year-old, who has a big head. And this is, I believe, the adult medium also, but this is a different style. This is not a slouchy hat. This is a more fitted, sort of vintagey Gatsby looking hat with a little design on the side. So I really like those. I knit them for the Indie Design gift along, and they just went straight into my winter things that we can grab and walk out the door with basket, which I have a basket of hats and scarves and mitts and things like that, so that if we or the kids want to go outside, we can just reach into the basket, grab something knit and warm, throw it on, go outside, and it works out nicely. Okay, so that was a good 45-minute break of my life that you guys missed. But now I can show you what I'm working on. This is a new shawl design, and it is my Feelin' Foxy shawl. So it's an asymmetrical shawl with some cables and some lace, and it starts at the lacy part, and then you add some garter in. And at the point that I'm at right now, I am almost finished with the second skein of DK weight yarn. It's starting to get to the point where you could wrap it around, but is not quite, not quite that it could stay by itself. And this is 2 skeins of yarn, and I'm going to use a third one. So, I'm really happy with the progress that I've been making on this. And the yarn I'm using is Yarn Cafe Creations, her Mocha DK base. Here's the, ooh dear, that looks all messy. Straighten that up before I put it on a camera. Yarn Cafe Creations. There's a little loop. You guys are gonna have to deal with it. Mocha DK, and it is her Foxy colorway. So this is a very nice squishy DK yarn. It's 100% merino. I had actually purchased it for a different shawl design that I had in mind, and that concept did not work out. And I have to say, I am so happy that concept did not work out, because this one is much better. I am much happier with this shawl that I'm knitting right now than the one that I was knitting with this yarn. So, and this part is going to, I don't know if you can see, there's cables and lace in there. So when I block it, this part is gonna grow a little bit wider. So it's gonna be this nice wide border all the way across, which is great. So this shawl, even though the sample is not done yet and I am finishing the sample, this shawl with the completed sample will be published on Saturday, shoot, what is the date? This Saturday coming up, the Saturday of Vogue. I believe it is either the 25th or the 26th of January. Whatever this upcoming Saturday is, that's the day that I am publishing it. So the other thing that I am wearing that I completely forgot to show you is, because it's cold, these are a little beat up, some Mine slippers by Faye Kennington. And you can see they're a little bit beat up. This is Lion brand Wool Ease in the lemongrass colorway, I think. And I wear these all the time. I'm actually wearing these over a pair of fingering weight socks right now to keep my feet warm. I'll do the weird foot thing. Those are my cobble socks. And so I am wearing fingering weight socks underneath with super bulky weight slippers over top. I guess slippers are like sweaters for your feet. And yeah, the double layer, it's really nice and warm in my chilly house. So that is what I'm working on. I'm very proud of the fact that I have been working pretty monogamously on that Feel and Foxy shawl, because one of my goals for this year is to finish, like the Finish and Frog challenge, that I want to finish the projects that I'm starting. So if I start a design, I don't want to get excited by a new yarn or a new pattern idea and not finish the original concept. As you can see, my yarn buying sort of outweighs how quickly I'm knitting or crocheting. So that is something else that is playing into my buying habits. And it's been very interesting because it helps me buy less yarn when I realize that I am still working on the same project that I was working on 5 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. So I don't need to buy more yarn. I need to finish the 3 skein project that I am 2 skeins into. Speaking of finishing projects, I showed you guys a little bit ago this design. This was the crochet sweater. Let me see if I can get it unjumbled. The crochet sweater that I was working on, right? And you remember I said I needed to do the sleeves. So I started doing the sleeves, and they look very puckered up on here, but they do fit. It just drops the shoulder a little bit. It's like a rounded sleeve cap. But I have to decide whether I want to finish this concept or whether I want to give it up as a, hey, that was a good first attempt at a sweater concept and kind of just move on. Or maybe if I want to modify the way that I'm doing the sleeves, because I am not happy with the sleeve at this present moment. And the other problem is that I do not have a person in the correct size for me to try this on. I originally started designing it when I was living with my sister-in-law, and her daughter is a 34-inch bust. So she is significantly smaller than I am. I'm size 42. And I figured I would be able to put it on her and try it on her and crochet a significantly smaller sweater, because 8 inches smaller is not a small number. But we no longer live with them. So now I have a sort of mostly completed sweater and nobody to put it on. So I would like to hear from you guys. Is this a design that you like well enough, or you are well enough invested in, that you would like to see it finished? Or, which would mean I would be remaking it in my size. I would be making a second sample in my size. Or is it something that, you know, like, cool, first idea, maybe time to move on to better things? Because I do also have other sweater concepts in mind that I think I could get the right fit a little more easily than this one. We will see. Who knows? But yeah, let me know. Let me know what you think. I'm very curious. I would love to hear. So this is part of my finisher frog. I have to make a decision what I want to do with this design concept. And I'm not quite sure yet. I go back and forth. I go back and forth between pushing myself to finish something that I've started, or something else I've been thinking a lot about this year is knowing when to stop, when enough is enough. You know, you don't always have to finish everything. It's good to finish the things that you start, but especially in the case of design, you don't always have to finish everything, especially if it's not working out. Sometimes acknowledging that something is not working out is the fastest way to move on to a new design that is. Like my Feel and Foxy shawl. Had I kept going with that first design concept that was not working, I would be making a not so good looking design right now. But because I stopped with the not so good looking one, frogged it, started the new concept, and now I have a really pretty shawl that I'm very happy with. So maybe I really will be just being done with that green sweater. We'll see. So, what else do I have sitting next to me? I have a whole bag of yarn and things that I want to show you. So to quickly finish up, I just want to show you some of the yarn that I've been dyeing recently that I have up in the shop now. Just a couple new colorways to, I guess, show you things look a little different than the yarn that I've dyed before, and I thought I would share it. If you watched Vlogmas, you will have seen that I have an Aran weight tweed base now, which is very exciting. So I have, what is this called? Teal Me Baby. And this one is called, these little strings that I'm pulling are just the ties that keep the yarn from getting tangled up while I'm dyeing it. So there's not like random loops hanging around, they're just the ties. This one I called Avocado Toast because it looks like when people spread avocado on toast and it gets all the crumbs in it. Yes. This bright and crazy one is called Fire Within, and it is on DK, I think that's what it's called. This one is on DK as well as BFL sock, a smooth BFL sock. Let's see, we have Squash Blossom on DK, Blueberry on both DK and BFL sock, Swamp Monster on Ultimate Sock, which is my high twist 80/20 2-ply sock, Mermaid Lagoon on Ultimate Sock. This is called Heart Song, and it is on Soft Sock, which is my 75/25 superwash merino nylon base, and this is the DK version. And oh, this is a fun one. Look how bright this is. This is called Unapologetic because it is so bright and it is so orange that there's no way you could ever mistake it for anything else, and it is just unapologetically orange. It is what it is. It's there. And I've been finding that this pairs surprisingly well with other colors. So this is Tropical Fish. And look, you could put Unapologetic with Tropical Fish. You could put Unapologetic with Heart Song. You could put it with Mermaid Lagoon. You could even put it with Swamp Monster. This looks like somebody who hunts to me. Or, let's see, what else could you do? There are other great pairings. This would be a super, super bright pairing. Or for somebody who loves the bears. All kinds of stuff. Oh, and Mermaid Lagoon is also on my high twist single ply fingering weight base. So, ta-da! That is what's in the shop right now. Whole bunches of different stuff. I've been playing a lot with learning how to dye solid colors and tonal colors, which is much more difficult than you might expect. Basically, you have to get the chemistry and the timing right to get a solid or a semi-solid colorway, and you have to be patient. But a little bit about what people call it, dream knitting, what I want to work on in the future. And over Christmas, I got these. I can't remember if I showed them on the podcast before, but it is Lion Brand, oh my goodness, there's a glare. Lion Brand Amazing Lace. And it is a lace weight yarn. It is 1,017 yards per 150 grams. So it looks small, but that's because it's lace weight, so it's a really big cake. And I want to use these to make the Sorrow Shawl by Knitty Console. Because I was going to dye yarn for it, and her sample is gray and bright red, and I was going to dye gray and red for it, and then I realized I have these colors just sitting in my stash, and her sample is a fingering weight shawl. But if you double lace weight, if you hold it, you know, if you hold it double, that gives you a fingering weight. And this skein or cake is 1,000 yards, and I need approximately 500 yards of fingering weight. So one cake of this and one cake of this, I should be able to get the shawl done, and it's a pretty big shawl. It's like a 70-inch shawl. It's really big. So I'm very excited to try that out, and we'll see how it goes. So that is on my to knit list. Also on my list, oh, I wanted to show you a couple yarns. Couple yarns. I found a new dyer that I really like, and a lot of people ask, like, why do you buy yarns from other dyers when you dye yarn yourself? And the answer is because we don't all have the same style of dyeing. And you're gonna see these yarns do not look like my yarns. They are done in a different style. So the dyer is Parkour, oh my gosh, Parkour Kitties. And she is out of Singapore, I believe. It's Lois is her name. So this is a beautiful, bright, let me read the tag. Okay, so this is a sock yarn. This is a 75-25 merino nylon, and the colorway is Yellow Orchid. It is 400 meters to 100 grams. So I think that's about 430 yards, something like that. The next one, this I find really exciting. This is called Autumn Leaves, and the reason I got it is because it's on a Polworth base. And I never know if I'm saying that right. Some people say Polworth and some people say Polworth. I've always said Polworth because that's how it looks to me on the label. But this is a 100% superwash New Zealand Polworth yarn. And I really like Polworth to spin with, and I have not found dyers here in the US who stock Polworth on a regular basis. And I did message her, she's on Etsy. She said she plans on stocking Polworth as a regular base. So if that is a base that you like to knit with or crochet with, check out Parkour Kitties. She has really stunning colorways. And it's crazy, on Instagram she has like 200 people following her, and the yarns are gorgeous. Go check her out and follow her. And this one is called Elliot, which is funny because that's my oldest son's name. And this is a lace weight kid silk. So that's 70% mohair and 30% silk. And this is, I've never physically touched kid silk before, but this is so soft. People talk about mohair being prickly against you, and that is just not the case with this yarn. This is really, really, really soft. And it came as a set, these two together. You're supposed to hold them together while you work, I assume, like how people do the hats together. But I have not yet decided if I want to knit them together or if I want to maybe, you know, put these two together, or if I want to knit them separately, like the Birds of a Feather shawl by Andrea Mowry, how she has the single and then the mohair lace sort of as a detail. So I'm not sure if I want to hold them together or do them separately yet. So this is my first new Dyer find, Parkour Kitties. The next new yarn find is Lola Bean Yarn Co. And I have seen her work for a while, but saw this colorway, and it is named, what is it named? My Dragon Ate Your Fairy. And I just thought it was such a funny name, and I had to grab it. And look at these colors. It's like rainbow, wonderful goodness. This is insane. I absolutely love it. So, ta-da. This is a sport weight. This is her Canary Bean. It's 100% superwash merino, 328 yards to 100 grams. And I've been thinking, as I look at my hand knit socks that I've been knitting, that I think I want them slightly thicker. And so I want to try this for a pair of sport weight socks. I have never knit sport weight socks before, but I'm considering trying this with one of my patterns that I already have published and just knitting a size smaller with the same size needles and seeing what happens. Or maybe going down a pattern size, up a needle size. I don't know. It says it recommends US 3 to 5 needles. So yeah, maybe I'll knit a pair of socks on size 3s instead of size 2s, which is what I would normally use. Yeah, so that's that. So last but not least is Sugar Plum Circus. And this is her single ply DK base, which I have never seen anywhere else. And I'm very intrigued to try it. It's like squishy. It's very, very squishy, very, very soft. So this colorway is Midnight Madonna, and this colorway is called Head Full of Rack Spurts. And I would like to try them together for color work. So I'm gonna have to find a pattern that would be good, or design a pattern that would be good for DK weight color work, maybe a hat or a cowl or something like that, and see what happens. Cause look, so pretty. We'll see what happens. All right, so thank you for taking the time to watch. I hope you guys like what you saw. If you did, please go ahead and click the like button. That just makes me more visible for other people on YouTube to see it. And as always, feel free to chat along in the comments below. I love to hear from you guys. If you would like to be notified the next time I have a podcast up, or a book review, or a yarn review, or anything like that, please go ahead and click the subscribe button and click the bell to turn on the notifications, so that way whenever the next podcast comes out, whether it's a month, whether it's 2 months, whether it's 2 weeks, you will get notified when there's a new video up. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a good day. Bye.